Hello everybody, welcome back. It's Sunday. Think about it. It's Sunday the 11th. This is just, I'm grabbing the date of the Ethernet. The Ether. Yeah, it's the 11th, right? Indeed. So we're going to talk about food from the shithead Japan. I say that with the most respect, though, right? I'm not trying to be mean to the shitheads. They are what they are, right? That's the nuclear industry. Everybody in the nuclear industry deserves that label. They're shipping food out of Japan, and a lot of it. And there's a simple way to understand this. There's a wrong way and a right way. There's always a wrong way. The wrong way is to go to the media. They're going to stab you in the back, cut your throat, throw you in a ditch. So, in 2012, there was an extra 865,000 cancers. 865,000 cancers in Japan. A spike. So what caused the spike of 865,000 extra cancers? This is the National Cancer Center who didn't give out the statistics after that. By the way, this is a comedy show because we're still fighting, so it has to be a comedy. How can the world sleep through this one? And so, not everybody got health care. Not everybody was diagnosed. And so Japan just can't keep feeding the food to the Japan population with these kinds of statistics. In the first year, this is the first year, 865,000 cancers. And as you can see, the 1-ton bags of radiation are growing food too. And so this whole week, not the whole week, but most of the week is dedicated to talking about Fukushima food. The food has the degenerate shithead Japan. I said it with most respect, by the way, because there's other names I was going to use, and I went with a pretty nice name, degenerate shithead. That's nice compared to what I was actually going to use. Contaminated the entire food chain worldwide with radioactive fallout. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Of course they did. Anybody that's in the know. And so the big problem is they're shipping food out of a nuclear wasteland where in just the first year there was an extra 865,000 cancers. These are crazy numbers. And cancer is just one of the many illnesses and diseases and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries and illnesses that are going to manifest. And I know, I get it. Dana, you've been doing this show forever, for over a decade. You're not going to win, Dana. You might as well quit. You're not going to change nothing, Dana. You might as well quit. I've heard it all. But what's going on is, this is a live show. We do it typically 5 days a week when I'm healthy enough to pull it off. And anybody that's looking for this subject, particularly policymakers and investors, when they will find me just by word of mouth. They're going to find me. They don't need to go out and search on the internet and who's this? Dana Durnford? What the hell is that? No, they don't need to do that. We've been at this long enough. Everybody in the industry knows who we are, right? I see me and you and the people that support me. Because it can't be done without support. The number of patients rose by 865,000 in 2012, a year after Fukushima. And what that means is they can't keep feeding the population this kind of food. So they said, well, there's billions of people, let's feed it to them. And some of this food, of course, is leukemia on a dinner plate. When you eat it, you end up leukemia shortly after. the Koriyama City, this is Koriyama City, with 300,000 people. And they didn't abandon it because the industry said it was safe. And then to take the industry's word is insane. Any facet of the industry, anything they tell you, you know it's a lie. We don't report on the health risks from radiation because people might worry. Well, what's the point of a newspaper if they're not going to report on the health risk? What is the point of them? If they're not going to tell you something important, help you. Harvard website is Harvard University. Media blindly reports TEPCO's false radiation levels. Blindly reports. It's still scary in Tokyo. People move away due to hotspots. So the hotspots is like a square meter. If your kid is there, they're going to get sick for the rest of their life, or they're going to die prematurely, and it's going to be a brutal way to die from radiation sickness. From the consumption, breathing it, drinking it, consuming it, washing in it, showering in it, cooking their food in it. It's in the playgrounds, it's everywhere. And kids, of course, they're closest to the ground. So they're getting brutal full-body x-rays just of gamma. And when you put everything in, the alphas, the neutrons, the betas, the x-rays, it's a recipe for stupid. Environment abruptly changed for half of Japan. Well, they picked up 30 million one-ton bags. There's no other reason. You don't need another reason to shun the food from Japan or any country where there was heavy radioactive fallout, like Canada, United States. And that is a frightening statement, right? But this is the kind of information that the policymakers and investors, when they come and watch this stuff, they're like, ho, I'm not investing in that. And so we chipped away at the nuclear. What we do is we chip away at the nuclear. They chipped away at me. They got me destroyed. I'm literally destroyed. Particularly my reputation is destroyed for anybody who don't know me. Once you know me, you realize I'm 100% honest 100% of the time. But if you go and read the propaganda, and it's impossible not to, then I'm some kind of sadistic demon. There's everything they're saying. They're saying I'm a pedophile, child molesters, the normal stuff. They do this to everybody, right? That I'm a shankster, I'm a scam artist. We've heard it all, and we heard it for extended periods of time. We have one of our cheerleaders, Calm Down Charlie, who's usually called every video. They will call in during and disrupt the broadcast from Japan, from Chicago Division, Tokyo Bureau of Chicago Division, rather. And so they have worked out a system now to attack me significantly, right? It's called Operation Long Jump, or as we like to call it, Operation Long Jump. I can play those clips for you. I'm not going to do it tonight. But what you find out when you watch a single one of my presentations is that everything the industry told you is a brutal lie, and that the truth is the most important thing you ever heard. So when you say that the environment abruptly changed, they're talking about radiation. So if you're growing food anywhere in Japan, and they're shipping, you got to realize each prefecture shipping, or capable of shipping 1 billion pounds just of rice. And this stuff will make you sick. Go back to 2012, Fukushima peaches on sale outside of Japan. Think about 30 million one-ton bags. There's 150,000 sites like this. That's what 30 million one-ton bags is. They didn't stop growing the food there. The farmers are such obedient slaves. They said, just don't worry about the bags. The radiation's in the bags, so it can't hurt anything. Go ahead and grow the food. We'll buy it, and we'll ship it. We'll turn it into sake. In fact, Japan, the Fukushima prefectural government opened up sake shops, which is alcohol, in New York City, where the entire shop, alcohol liquor store, is full of product from a nuclear wasteland because they can't get rid of the rice. Well, they can now, and they have, and they never stop trying, so they will succeed. They have endless budget. There's no limit on the budget. They have an amazing budget to do this. And so we're just this little tiny speck in the universe. And what we do is those who can find us will inform you, educate you, make you unbelievably articulated, and make you immune to the propaganda. And you can extrapolate things on your own, for sure. You're the best and most highly educated people on the planet when it comes to radiation, radioactive fallout, nuclear, etc., etc. You are unassailable with your wealth of knowledge. You have an unbelievable wealth of knowledge, and this is why they hate me so much. This is why they smear me. They have to destroy me. They can't destroy all of us, though. So we've won the battle. The industry is going backwards. Last year they had 2 nuclear power plants went offline. They didn't gain any more new nuclear. Renewables was 507 gigawatts, which is equal to 575 plus large nuclear power plants in renewables coming online at one time. In 12 months, nuclear can't compete with that. So today we want to teach you about food, and tomorrow and the next day. And we got other stuff to cover during the week a little bit. We'll throw in these shows. We're to a place again today where there's no birds again. Beautiful Mother Nature, beautiful waterfalls, and unbelievable, just gorgeous streams and rivers. And no birds again. It's unbelievable. And we're not the only ones that's having this. Japan government drastically reduced allowable levels of radiation of food 100 becquerels, which is, think of a becquerel as a pulse of energy. It's like an explosion in every direction. And it's almost at the speed of light. And that's what the single atom does. And this is how they're able to boil water for 1 million homes and businesses with a reactor. Is these pulses of energy. By the way, once you take the reactor core after 18 months or something, or 14 months, when you take a chunk of the reactor core out of the reactor and put it in the fuel pool, there's no more containment. It's still splitting those atoms, and they're released like snowfall, and they never go away. That's snow that never melts, never goes away, but you can't see it, or smell it, or hear it, or feel it, or taste it, or touch it, or perceive it. And you got to learn to predict it. And Japan's food, the dirty, rotten scoundrels, is one way you can protect your loved ones, yourself, and your community has to be protected. Japan government to drastically reduce allowable levels of radiation in food. 100 becquerels. So we're going to call a becquerel an atom. And an atom pulses a becquerel every second or so. Expected by April 2011. The story is, so April they're talking about is 2012. So the question is, at that time the limit was, don't believe anything they tell you, at 500 becquerels. Now they're talking about Cesium-137. Apparently, in nuclear meltdowns, that's the only thing that exists. And of course, that's an outrageous lie. It's an inconceivable lie. You have over 1,000 physical, I'm going to start repeating myself now, physical atoms that you need to avoid at all costs. The current limit of 500 atoms per kilogram of radiation, of isotopes. It's not radiation, it's not like energy. It's like energy, but where is the energy? It's the physical atoms that's in the food. It's not like a beam of energy, and then you turn it off and there's no energy anywhere. This pulses energy every second. It's physical atoms. And so you can simulate this into your muscles, your skeleton, your organs, and it's going to pulse energy every second. Your body's going to attack all the damage every second for the rest of your life and the source. Eventually, it's going to build a tumor around the source you call cancer. Fission vessel is also expected to be lowered by about 1/5 of the 500 atoms in April of 2012. So this is 2011. The upcoming change is welcomed. However, why is it safe to eat food contaminated with 500 atoms of cesium now and not 6 months from now? Well, it's not. An evacuation zone at a nuclear power plant was 155 atoms per cubic meter, or per square meter, not per kilogram. And so you have to, for kilogram, you have to multiply it by 66.6 to get a square meter. So saying 500 atoms a kilogram, this is insanity to even suggest that that had. Now, and then again, like they're talking about cesium, which is nasty. It pulses energy 600 feet every second. But this is completely unacceptable. There really isn't any acceptable level of anthropogenic man-made radiation. But 500 atoms a kilogram is a frightening thought. Now, this stuff was not 500 atoms a kilogram. It's 50,000 atoms a kilogram. When 185 atoms per square meter was an evacuation zone at said nuclear plant before you had a catastrophic event. And it picked up 30 million one-ton bags, which is just symbiotic of. It was only 3% of the land where they scratched up. Excuse the whistling, Dana. 3% of the land is where they scraped up the topsoil. Got a bit of a whistle there tonight, do we? Oh, I like it. Oh, I got a hot cup of tea. I forgot to turn on my heater. Turn on my heater. All right. All right, so this is some very insane stuff we're about to go through. I mean, this is insane. This is March the 20th. This is 9 days after the first anniversary of the stupidest event in human history. This should never happen. But any checks and balances, nuclear couldn't exist. Any real checks and balances. So they created fake checks and balances, and they're called International Atomic Energy Agency, UNSCLEAR, IRPA, the IPRC. There's a very, very long list. The majority of them are United Nations subsidies. So they all back each other up and make them look independent, but they're not. They're all the same. And they're all the same people on each one of these organizations. It's a group of gray-haired 100 people. And they're the ones that destroy your communities and your families, your loved ones. And they're the ones also that are setting the limits for what they can assault you with in the hospital. These are assaults. Radiation is an assault. It's a physical assault. It's described in academic studies as assaults. Seniors urged to eat the Fukushima rice to help the farmers protect the young people. The seniors are the people that built the country. They worked their fingers to the bone, and then they're being exterminated. They're being disposed of. And in a way that's horrifying, through radiation. They're poisoning them with radiation, kill them off, which is the worst way you can die. And this is why you see shithead Japan has degenerate. This is why we call them degenerate shithead Japan. Because doing what they're doing to the elderly, the most vulnerable of society, the people that built the country, made it possible for them to have the life that they have, and turn around and poison them with radiation. And I'm going to show you, it's horrifying. Has degenerate shithead Japan contaminated the entire food chain worldwide with radioactive fallout? And the answer is unequivocally, oh yeah, you have no idea. And this, I remember, and I never, every time I would do this story, does the same thing to me where it frightens me. And not much frightens me anymore. I've seen it all, kind of, right? Well, I haven't seen it all because nuclear is just one just stupid, degenerate bunch of shitheads. A Tokyo senior is waging an individual effort. This is the major media in Japan is publishing this, by the way, to help local farmers who are effectively serial killers, struggling with rumors. Like 60 million or 30 million one-ton bags is not a rumor. At this point, they hadn't picked up any bags. That their crops are radioactive. Of course they're radioactive. They're in a nuclear wasteland. And to make sure the grain isn't consumed by the more vulnerable younger generation. So they're calling it rumors, but then they're acknowledging that it shouldn't be consumed by more vulnerable younger generations in the same paragraph. And it's a staff writer for the major media in Japan. And then most of the people who have grown up watching The Simpsons have been slowly, effectively indoctrinated to be very complacent, incapable of challenging the official narrative, because this subtle brainwashing, this insidious brainwashing that they use through The Simpsons. Of course, Homer is a nuclear operator, and he has all kinds of actions as normal. Don't worry about it. That's the connotations. But it's done so subtle that the average person who has decades of this indoctrination is incapable of rationalizing. The elderly must eat the radioactive rice, Hinno resident 68 told the Japan Times on Monday. The elderly must eat the radioactive food. Have you ever heard anything like this before? So if I take a whole bunch of food and then throw a couple of tons of cyanide on it, instead of getting rid of it, they say that we should feed it to the elderly so that the younger people don't eat it. Have you ever conceived anything that evil? Have you ever conceived of anything that evil? This is the Japan Times, the biggest media, the government's mouthpiece. Compared with young people, the elderly are believed less prone to the harmful effects of radiation. So what are you talking about? Less prone? Like, there's nothing out there with replicating cells that has an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. And the elderly who already have a compromised immune system are going to suffer terrible agony and agonizing death because they consume this stuff. It's unconscionable. These people deserve the death penalty immediately. No delay. There should be no delay. If they signed on to this, and they did, those people who put their name on it should have faced the death penalty. It should have been right away. These are clearly serial killers of the worst type. If you're not familiar with this subject, you're probably confused by what I'm saying here, but I'm not saying it lightly. I'm saying that's exactly what should happen to these. These are monsters we're talking about. And there's nowhere on the planet you can escape the radioactive food. But the nuclear wasteland, you don't want food shipped into your communities from this stupid idiot, the moron society known as the nuclear industry is shipping from Japan. He had entered his sales contract with a nuclear rice wholesaler in the Fukushima prefectures, calling on seniors to place orders by fax or online via social networking sites like Facebook. I just want to make sure people know I'm doing this for business. I am not doing it for business purposes. Like, you want to make sure you're not doing it for... then you're doing it to murder all these elderly. It's clearly what you're doing. Radioactive food that's murder. And not having universities and academics and scientists speak out and speak out strongly means you have lost. It's the biggest breach of academics in human history. The orders handled by Hyrie aka monster, have amounted to 1,700 kilograms so far, he said, and about 700 kilograms was bought by an elderly care facility in Tokyo. Why would you feed people poison when they went there to be taken care of? How can you call it a care facility when you just fed them an insidious amount of nuclear waste? This is an industry that we should all hang our heads in shame, right? They contaminated everything. And I mean, everything is contaminated. There's nothing safe anymore, let alone seafood. That, however, is a minimum amount compared with Fukushima, 240,000 ton, and it's actually a lot more than that. That must have been the numbers then, because there was a lot of places where the 240,000 tons, which is metric, 2,200 pounds. And a pound, this is enough to make you sick for the rest of your life. It's enough to poison 500 million people, just at a single prefecture. Each year. But it's so much worse, because all the surrounding prefectures are poisoned too. He said his reason for doing this is not only because he wants to help the Fukushima farmers, the genocidal farmers, the mass murdering farmers, the actual monsters, the monsters of Fukushima, but also because he wants to make sure the elderly eat as much Fukushima rice as possible to prevent the children from accidentally eating the grain. He wants to make sure the elderly murder themselves. I've never heard of anything. If this was a Hollywood movie pre-Fukushima, nobody would go and watch it. This is stupid. This could never happen. This is crazy. Well, they'd be laughed at in Hollywood. In fact, they wouldn't even be able to get any money to shoot the movie because nobody would say, no, that could never happen. What are you talking about? You want the elderly people to eat the nuclear, radioactive, deadly food so the children don't eat it. Why not move the children editor? And the elderly. How is this considered a society that does something like this and sits in silence? And this is up in the Japan Times. So there's no way anybody in Japan can say that they didn't know the story. They didn't read the story. Because that goes out everywhere. He wants to make sure the elderly eat the radioactive food to prevent the children from accidentally eating the radioactive food. Because he calls one rice, Fukushima rice, and the other one a grain, which is the same food. You really, truly got to be evil to write something like that. And this is one way to find radiation in your food, but it's not going to find the alphas, the betas, the neutrons, the X-rays. It's just going to find gamma. And once you find gamma, you can extrapolate there's all the other isotopes are there. But this is not a barometer for being safety. There are no regulations obliging restaurants and makers of bento box lunches to list the origin of the rice they're used. There's no regulation. Why wouldn't you have regulation? You regulate 3,000 chemicals, but you won't regulate nuclear fallout. And in such amounts that we've never seen radioactive fallout. Fukushima, Japan, nuclear meltdowns, was the biggest radioactive fallout in history, period. It dwarfs everything combined. That we know about, anyway. To the list of origins of the rice they use, and this may lead to children eating the Fukushima rice. So first off, you should have changed the regulations. Why would you grow food in a nuclear wasteland where they picked up 30 million one-ton bags? What kind of society thinks that's acceptable? Therefore, why don't the elderly, whose potential for suffering health damage from radiation is lower than it is for youths, eat all of the Fukushima rice. Well, you can't because you don't stop growing rice there. And you're killing all the elderly by doing it. You're making them insidiously sick. Farmers are required to check the radiation in the rice. Wait, what? If the levels of radioactive gamma, cesium, exceeds 500 atoms per kilogram, they're banned from selling it. So the farmers are checking the rice themselves. So they're in charge of their payday. And the farmers, of course, if they're stupid enough to be there and grow rice, then they're stupid enough to sell it to you. They're stupid enough to lie. Like, you got to be stupid to go there where there's 30 million one-ton bags and grow rice. You literally got to be a living, breathing moron to do that. You can't get to work without driving past sites like this, 150,000 sites like that. And then you get close to the nuclear meltdowns, and you're going to go to work, grow food, and ship it? I'm surprised there's not a bunch of mercenaries down there shooting the farmers. I don't think anybody would complain. He's also a member of the Skilled Veteran Corps for Fukushima, a group consisting of elderly people who have experience working at nuclear disease factories. Said another reason for promoting Fukushima rice is he wants to gain support from the residents so he and other groups can be asked to work at the crippled. Like, when you release 30 million one-ton bags of radiation, this doesn't meet the word cripples criteria at all. The building's actually detonated. The reactor 3, for instance, there was 4 reactors and 8 fuel pools that detonated. This is reactor 3 behind me. The plume covers the entire planet. How bad is Fukushima going to be? The plume covered the entire planet in 26 days. And so, how bad is Japan going to be? It's a frightening question, but everybody better start asking themselves so they can get into the right frame of mind. There's peaches. What they went in and they went in and power washed the trees, picked up 1-ton bags of radiation, and said it was safe now. It simply doesn't work like that. This is radiation. Japan is a failed society that is going to take the whole planet with them. The group has 675 members ranging in ages from 50 to their 80s. And those interested in buying the rice must pay cash on delivery. They're not fly-by-night at all. To order, send a fax to... This is the mainstream, the biggest media in Japan, trying to push deadly radioactive food to those who are turning to them to be educated. I don't know how there's a journalist on the planet can ever look in the mirror. Fukushima children receive radiation meters. 34,000 children living in a nuclear wasteland. Just one spot. This is to monitor their exposure levels. Living in the largest city near the tsunami-damaged Fukushima, I imagine this is Koriyama. The device is called dosimeters. They can't read themselves. Has to be sent to the university. So they're essentially lab rats, right? Will be distributed in September to children between the ages of 4 and 15 living in Fukushima City, which has recorded relatively high radiation levels. What do you mean relatively high? Relatively high compared to what? This is Fukushima City. To get to Fukushima City, you got to drive past all of these 1-ton bags of radiation. Every house in Fukushima is entitled to be decontaminated, but you can't decontaminate a house or a business or a building or a school or anything else because it's radiation. And for every building and house to be contaminated, then it's a nuclear wasteland. Once a nuclear wasteland, it's always going to be a nuclear wasteland. And what they should do is dig up all the sidewalks, the streets, cut down all the trees in 1,000 miles, take all the buildings, take everything and put it in a repository, and then get out of there. You can't live there. You can get away with it for decades or two, and then it comes back in overdrive. And as we've seen, 865,000 extra cancers across the country in the first year is a harbinger of just madness. So they're shipping the food worldwide because you can't keep eating their own food. It's a nuclear wasteland. And keeping children in a nuclear wasteland? What kind of society does that? And then using them as actual living guinea pigs, human guinea pigs, by giving them something that they can't use to protect themselves. They're going to use to record the damage. It's unbelievable. And then the nuclear students will take that and then they'll come into the real world and look for more children to study. You're creating generations of nothing but stupid monsters. Because Fukushima City is outside the area that has been officially designated as too dangerous to live in. Schools, businesses, and government offices continue to operate as usual. Well, just because people are stupid and complacent doesn't mean it's safe. There's zero possibility this place is safe, right? Every building there is entitled to be decommissioned. The Fukushima plant is seen as insufficient by several groups leading a petition campaign to lower the acceptable exposure levels for children from 20,000 microsieverts per year, the same level as adults, to 1,000 microsieverts per year, 1 millisievert. 20,000 microsieverts of radiation is roughly equivalent to the exposure a person would receive from an X-ray. It's simply not true. Think of an X-ray as a beam of energy, right? It's a beam of energy. It's way over there. And the energy pulses right through you. And then it's imprinted like the old-fashioned pictures, right? It's imprinted onto a onto a 20,000 microsieverts. Think of a microsiever as 750 atoms, and we're downplaying it. We're lowballing the number of a microsiever by saying the 750 anthropogenic man-made atoms like uranium, plutonium, americium, neptunium, strontium. 750. So let's look at these numbers. See, an X-ray turns on, then it's turned off again immediately. You're getting an X-ray every second for the rest of your life. Let me bring it up here. I'll show you what this means. So it's 20 millisieverts, which is 20,000 microsieverts. Ooh. Now you got to multiply that by 750 atoms. And that equals 15 million explosions going off in your body every second. So each explosion every second, your body attacks it with white blood cells for the rest of your life. Each one of those explosions. But not only that, the explosion damages cells and DNA and chromosomes and causes lesions on your organs and everything else and puts holes in the hearts of children. It has to repair all of this every second. It's the equivalent to having 15 million micro cuts in your body or your children's body or your elderly, your loved ones, your friends, your family, your body. But think about the effects upon the birds and the mammals, the animals, the insects. And this is why you're not cleaning your windshield anymore. You're wiping out the species. And let's make no mistake, this is an industry of pure evil. And it suggests it's an X-ray equal to an X-ray. So what are you trying to say? That the radioactive atom no longer pulses energy every second, only pulses it a single time, like an X-ray. Because an X-ray is just a beam and then you turn it off. And when you got 15 million atoms in your anthropogenic man-made atoms that your body treats as a foreign object and attacks every second for the rest of your life because you're consuming food too. I mean, 20 millisieverts is simply it's a disproportion of what's actually going on. It's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent of what's actually going on. And you're talking about 50 million atoms in your body pulsing energy every second. See, they didn't avoid this. They didn't abandon these facilities, these businesses, these malls, these communities, these hospitals, these car dealerships, these homes, these businesses, these, hundreds of years of legacy, and the families had to run away and leave it behind because it was a single pulse of energy like an X-ray. They ran away because it's pulsing energy every second. And the spider webs you're looking at are all completely deformed. And there's nothing in the spider webs. Surreal pictures. And it looks exactly like that today. But see, there is, the typical person is manipulated and incapable of rationalizing what's going on. Now, if you come and find this video I'm doing tonight, a lot of them right away, within the end of the show, will be able to extrapolate on their own very useful information. They won't have to go seeking out and they'll end up finding the apologists, and apologists will lead them down the road of bananas and potato chips and walking in the sunshine, right? The propaganda narratives. Just bear with me. And because bananas and potato chips got nothing to do with it. Like, spiders don't care about bananas and potato chips or walking in the sunshine, okay? And they've been lying to you like this for almost 80 years. Government model shows Fukushima radioactive gas near Tokyo skyrocketed 10 billion times the normal. There is no such thing as normal. There's leftover from weapons from the war they had to call nuclear test. That was the nuclear war. It's the same bomb, the same radioactive fallout. It lives the same time, millions of years. Very high concentrations recorded at all monitoring posts in the northern hemisphere. And Fukushima food is sold for half prices, right? Quarter prices. So, it looks good, right? It looks just as good as the other food. So the average person is incapable because they're under siege with propaganda. And they're not going to find me. You found me. You're the lucky ones. And I'm not like tooting my own horn or anything like that. I'm stating the fact. You're the lucky ones. You find somebody who's actually going to rationalize the facts. And every time you eat radioactive food, it bioaccumulates and stays in your body forever. And that's a recipe for just a disaster, a health disaster. And it could be heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline. There's also Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, Down syndrome. The first studies to do after nuclear accident immediately is Down syndrome and autism. What does that tell us? And you will find it. So there's so many, entire population is contaminated after each one of these events because the plumes are so vast. Like the plumes from gas, oil, and coal plants don't travel very far. They're very heavy. We're talking about physical atoms. We're talking about 2 million atoms in the head of a needle. 200 million atoms in the head of a needle, you can't see it. But for for carbon, it's 5 times, 10 times, 15 times the size of the 200 million atoms that are man-made that you can't see. And carbon, of course, what's wrong with carbon? Carbon is your friend. I didn't transfer that. Just bear with me. Let me just explain why will extra carbon kill the planet, or will extra carbon help the planet? Well, there was a study come out by 5th graders who grew plants with double carbon. I'm just going to play that for you. I'm going to get rid of the music. We don't need that music. So they had two plants, two CO2 concentrations. One was the atmospheric concentration that we have right now. What was so 440 parts per million, 1,270 parts per million of carbon. Which you can, if we got no carbon, this will look like the moon. Earth will look like the moon, right? A 52% increase for more carbon, more foliage, more fruit, more vegetables, whatever. The stem weights at harvest, 21% increase. That's 7 days. Much more healthier, bigger, stronger. 339% increase in root, which means it's going to bring up more nutrients rather, and more water, more energy. Let me get my big head out of the way here. My group big head. Leaf numbers at harvest, a 38% increase. This is 28 days. And carbon doesn't travel very far. When you burn anything, you're releasing carbon. You always have it, always will. And this is the cycle of life. Carbon is the cycle of life. No carbon is the cycle of death. $1,270 parts per million. And then look at the result. The result is amazing. It's not a pollutant. Okay, so just bear with me. I'm going to play another clip as soon as I got you here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Panelists, let me just go right down the line real fast. What percent of our atmosphere is CO2? Take your best guess. You don't have to be accurate. All down the line.
Repeat that question.
What percent of our atmosphere is CO2, carbon dioxide? Wild guess, it's okay.
I'll buy 5%.
5?
I'll just follow you then.
We'll go 7. That's my favorite number.
I'll see their 5 and suggest that we know that transportation causes 49% of CO2, so that's why we're all working on energy transition.
All right. So what number do you think it is?
5.
5? How about you? I didn't hear you, Mr. Dreyer.
7.
7. Did you have one, Mr. Boyd?
So we got a 5, 7,
This Price is Right.
8. I'm going to
Okay.
get the high end.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, and I don't mean to put you on ice. I ask a lot of people that because all we hear is climate change, CO2, CO2. I heard a couple of you on the panel saying you're looking to change your vehicles to electric, even though we don't have the electric grid. And me as a farmer, I wouldn't be real happy about running out and replacing $300,000, $500,000, $1 million pieces of equipment because someone wants it to be electric. The answer is 0.04%. Not 1%, not a half of a percent. It's 0.04%, and it's gone up from 0.03 over the last couple decades. This is what we're being all contorted into doing, is this tiny change in CO2. If we get below 0.02, plant life starts dying off.
So 0.02%. And there's senators in Congress, they're saying that it could be 6%, 7%, when it's actually 0.4%. Or 0.04 of a percent. So 0.04 of a percent is nowhere near what it should be. And then they're what, doing carbon capture? Carbon sequestering? So they're purposely trying to kill the planet. There can be no mistake in what we're seeing. the whole system is so maniacal. So they got radiation that was destroyed the immune system of everybody worldwide. There was the that destroyed the immune system of everybody worldwide too. And now what? We're going to have a massive, unbelievable war in the Middle East. You know, you got Israelis, one of Israel's top singers coming out yesterday saying, should nuke Yemen, they should nuke Lebanon, they should nuke Iran, they should nuke Turkey. Just go ahead and do it. I mean, my goodness. You know, so if him and his family was sat there and somebody come in and start shooting all these family members, would he smile and say, this is awesome? Or would he try to stop him, I wonder? I'm assuming he wouldn't. I'm assuming he'd go hide. It's just surreal. But this is the perfect storm now. Over the last 4 or 5, the last 13 years, you know, the radioactive fallout, high concentrations of radiation hit the United States and Canada. Plume was rich in cesium-137. Yeah, and uranium, plutonium, curium, and americium, neptunium, and strontium. And this wiped out the food chain. This broke the food chain. We're in the whole planet, the population of this planet is in the most fragile position in human history. There's never been a moment in history where a population has been, their immune system is completely compromised through multiple venues, and the food chain is broken. Like if you go like British Columbia with 27,000 islands, that was a tropical paradise pre-Fukushima, and you shipwreck on that coastline now with 27,000 islands in a tropical rainforest, you will actually starve to death. When before, if the entire population of the planet moved there, they would have more than enough food to sustain them without hurting the ecosystem. So now there's nothing there. And we know because we've done brutal research expeditions to quantify those assertions. Went back year after year, and the species didn't recover. High concentrations of radiation. And cesium-137 pulls an energy 600 feet every second. It'll pulse through your neighbor's house, his neighbor's house, the neighbor's house, and then into your house and destroy your cells, your chromosomes, your DNA every second for the rest of your life. Why would you want that on your planet? And this industry has done everything it could to make it impossible for you to comprehend the danger for 80 years. And they built these reactors in Fukushima on a 3,000-year fault line, or a 3,000-year legacy of massive tsunamis over 100 feet, and where they have over 1,000, 15 earthquakes every year that people will feel. But they're only 36 miles away from the continental shelf that does that every so often, without fail for millions of years. And they put all of the reactor cores at the top of a building in the most, literally, the stupidest place imaginable, at the top of the buildings. And where they're boiling off water into the ecosystem, and each liter saturated with trillions and trillions and trillions of isotopes that will be here long after everybody's gone, destroying everything with replicating cells. This is an industry that hates you. And Fukushima contaminated the entire food chain worldwide, permanently. And the pundits were out there screaming it was like a banana. And when this happened, I was out, I attacked everybody said the word banana. Everybody said the word banana and potato chips and walking in the sunshine and stuff like that, flying on airplanes. I come out and just screamed at them with videos in desperation to wake this planet up. And I have never stopped But after about 2 years, very rare, once a year or something, somebody will use the word banana or potato chips. In fact, I can't remember the last time somebody used the word potato chips. When post-Fukushima, everybody done that in the freaking media. Everybody had done that. These are cowards on a scale I have nothing to compare it to. So this is one of the pictures here of them checking 50 million 50 million bags of rice, 50-pound bags of rice a year. And see the device you got in his hand there? That's going to scan it for radiation. Oh, it's okay. Give us another bag, George. I never heard or seen anything as stupid in my life as what they're doing there. Not only that, the people don't know what they're doing. They're not qualified to run this stuff. And that if you hit a big dose of radiation, you'll destroy the calibration of these machines. So clearly these machines are not meant to find the radiation. And the farmers are checking the food themselves, like I showed you earlier. This is stuff that if you produced a Hollywood movie pre-Fukushima and used those connotations, everybody on the planet would have ridiculed you for your inability to understand society. But you nailed it. You pounded it right on the friggin' head. You got it just right. When you look back, because we have the luxury of hindsight, right? Authorities hid the radioactive plume. There was 5,500 of these plumes forecast by the speedy that they created. Very disappointing. It's akin to murder. It's 100% akin to murder. Avoiding evacuation. That's 100%. That's not akin to murder. That is murder. And the biggest byproduct of the radiative fuel rods is the curium isotopes, which needs lead shielding 20 times thicker than plutonium, which is named after the devil. And like they talk about Cesium-137, but you got to worry about all. This is just a fraction of the isotopes and their daughters. You got to worry about all of it. And I mean, they're growing food right alongside of 1-ton bags of radiation. It's equivalent to go, like, imagine your neighbors. There's a husband and wife, and they got 2 kids, and they invite all their neighbors over for a big barbecue, big lunch and barbecue. And they're going to provide not provide all the food. They want you all to bring a potluck for the supper. Right? So everybody brings their own salads and whatever. And so they got these bunch of tables set up. And in between the tables there are these big tall benches. They're too tall for people to sit on. And so everybody's finally gathered up. You're getting close to supper. Now the host jumps up on the tall benches and walks between the 2 tables with their pecker out, pissing on the food. And the wife is, this is... And all the kids, Daddy's so great. And all the guests there are doing the same thing. Oh my God, this is brilliant. That's the best way to get pissed on all the food. And then everybody runs over and starts eating the food. That's what you're looking at right there, right? Except it's not piss. It's brutal radiation. Like, this was in the mainstream media, this picture. There's a couple of them, right? In particular that we used. That came out of the... And we usually run the story at the same time where the picture came from. But I can never reconcile these pictures of farmers harvesting food, and they're right by the nuclear meltdowns, and no one's allowed to live there, but they're in there growing food, coming back every week to check on it, once a week, and then they go and harvest it for sale in a nuclear wasteland. And the media puts it up on their platforms and ridicules anybody that has any concern. Like, how do we ever get this stupid, I wonder? 27,000 atoms of cesium in a kindergarten near the west coast of Japan, 200 kilometers from the meltdowns. In a kindergarten. Did they abandon the kindergarten, Dana? No. Did he close it down for a while? No. Did he clean it up? No. Did he give kids paper suits to protect themselves? Not that I will. No. No, shut up. When the parents asked, wasn't there something they could have told them, shut up, call them fearmongers. They never stopped growing food in the nuclear wasteland. There are 150,000 sites like this. 30 million one-ton bags that we know about. Western Tokyo may have been contaminated when radiation plume fell to the ground after number 2 reactor core was exposed October 27, 2000. Again, this is madness to suggest it. And yet we come back here, we try our best, and what we do is we sabotage the nuclear industry because we're live every day, and the people that are thinking about investing in this, or policymakers, will watch these videos and say, what the hell is going on here? I mean, this picture, this video, I'm going to play it for you. The hell with it. It's a short video, and this is the really popular media. This is only a fraction of them, saying that they're in the fuel pool. The fuel pool is 140 feet above that stump, and to be at the fuel pool and look down into the fuel pool like they're going to do in these videos is you're going to be at the very top of the buildings. These were 65-meter, 190-foot, 19-story buildings. And how is it that this is even conceivable? But yet here it is.
Where I'm standing is on top of what used to be reactor building number 4. The whole of this building was blown apart by a huge explosion.
We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011.
Of the decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
At the end of our tour, we were checked for radiation exposure. In 4 hours, I received the equivalent of less than a chest x-ray.
1,500 highly radioactive fuel rods inside this pool. They've got to move them outside of this reactor.
So the media wouldn't lie to you. ABC Cecilia Vega, she makes $900,000 a year being a monster for the media. BBC Rupert Winfield Hayes up there, BBC. He done the same thing for Reactor 3, for goodness sakes. CBS Seth Dorn is a senator's son, for goodness sakes. Pretending they're in a building that don't exist, and they have I think it's 71 reactors in the United States, exact replicas of Fukushima. So they can go to any of those 71 reactors in the United States and shoot those particular videos. Or you can just do it with a green screen if you want to, right? They don't need to, because any nuclear plant will let them come in to make the propaganda. It's normal for nuclear plant employees to produce propaganda, by the way. And Rod Adam, interesting last name, spelled the same way, was one of the most unbelievable people conceivable, where he reveled in doing that lie, producing those lies. And he used to run podcasts, and he used to bring in all kinds of nuclear academics, nuclear scientists, and they would sit there and yuck it up over bananas and potato chips and walking in the sunshine. And they'd all chip it. You can see them all with the smirks on their faces. And I can't remember. It's 400. I think it was 480 podcasts he'd done. You know what he does now? He's a capital venturist. This is a nuclear power plant employee. Is now a capital investor. Capital venture investor. He invests in nuclear startups. And he got wealthy by being a monster. And when he used to go to all these meetings in nuclear, and everybody basically knew who Rod Adams was. And when he would show up, and he would always show up, and he would always get on the microphone, and he'd bring a little pellet, and he'd say, "This is a pellet from a nuclear fuel rod. See, it's harmless." And you can't, if you put a pellet through a chain reaction, first off, you can't pick it up as a lethal dose. No one's going to let you walk out of the plant with it or anything else, right? But you would hear, the audience would always mock him whenever he showed up. And he just smile and tell his lie and sit down again. There's an incredible industry dedicated, right? These people will go and get incredible educations and pedigree. They'll come from incredible families, very wealthy, very privileged, going to the best schools. To get a job they know exists, to come out and tell you a lie. Tell you it's like a banana and a potato chip. There's a massive industry of that alone. And then when it comes to lobbyists, the numbers are just, it's unbelievable. Tens of thousands of lobbyists just for the nuclear industry. Well-paid lobbyists, just to lie to anything and everybody. The Pentagon has 29,000 lobbyists. They call them public relations officers, but they're lobbyists, right? And they're lobbyists for the worst industry in history, is nuclear and the military-industrial complex. Forecast map of radioactive cloud shows a threat to U.S. West Coast. Let me bring up some of these maps. This is one of TEPCO's numbers put into a model of Neptunium-239. It's a flex part model data and p-flex part dispersion plots developed with TEPCO, total release evaluations, which is completely played down to next to nothing, and includes dispersion models of a plutonium-239, Neptunium-239. This particular model showing 20 days to your left and 21 days to your right of radioactive fall of Neptunium-239. So in 20 days, the whole planet's covered. So how bad is ground zero going to be? Because the radiation doesn't stop coming out. It's still coming out today. Reactor 1 has gone China syndrome. We're never going to get that genie back in the bottle. And we're never going to get these genies back in the bottle anyway. But that's enough there to change the future of humanity and the 8 million species right there. Carbon, by the way, doesn't produce models like this. You'll never see a model of carbon. And there is models. They come up with one, because I say this all the time, I've been doing it for years. But recently they came out with a model of carbon, the dirty, rotten scums. And we're going to cover that later the week maybe, but I think it's super important to come out prolonged shows on radioactive food, because that's how they're going to get you, right? That's their plot. This is an old plot. This is not a young plot. They've been at this plot for a long time. This is an agenda to poison you with your food. Let me show you what that actually means. I do my best. Unfortunately, I know it's not enough, right? We need a lot of people out there doing this, and we'll get somewhere. We can't put the genie back in the bottles, but this industry deserves somebody's dedication, don't it? And there's so many terrible, just unbelievable, terrible people in the nuclear industry. And they owned almost all, 99.9% of the anti-nuclear movements. They own it. They created it to get rid of, to displace you, displace me. So you'll find Greenpeace, and Greenpeace will cut your throat in a heartbeat. Greenpeace blocked me. Greenpeace Canada, Greenpeace United States, Greenpeace New Zealand, Greenpeace Britain, Greenpeace Scotland, Greenpeace Ireland, Greenpeace Australia, China, everywhere else. They all blocked me because I tweeted this video and asked them to retweet it for me so we can have a conversation. Blocked me and took the video and the pictures down. So does that sound like they're going to be there to help you? Or does that sound like that's the industry? So they got all kinds of studies knowing the radiation is absorbed into your food. And by the way, every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms. Except for a few, right? But almost, and usually because they're deep in cities or something. How low doses radiation causes heart diseases and liver and lung and respiratory and pituitary and thyroid and adrenaline. I was watching I got 2 videos this week from Great Britain. One of them is sunflowers. Now, sunflowers will face the sun all day long. They're the only plant that turns and follows the sun. That's why they call them sunflowers, because they'll turn their face towards the sun. Well, there's a video come out of Great Britain of a farmer who's got all kinds of different fields. One of his fields is the sunflowers. And he said, I didn't realize, he said, it just kind of snuck past me because you take it for granted. And all of a sudden he realized, right, that the sunflowers weren't pointing towards the sun. And so he thought he's losing his mind. And so next day the same thing, next day the same thing. And over the next week or something, it struck him he should make a video and post it. And then there was another farm. Just imagine sunflowers not following the sun. What's going on? The radiation has screwed them up so bad now, they're not able to perform their genetic functions any longer, like everybody else I'm noticing. And there's another video from Great Britain showing there's no insects. You got farmers, and he's got all these particular lovely flowers that the bumblebees love, and he hadn't seen one this year whatsoever. And it just like slipped right past him. And then one day he stopped and he looked at it and he was like, "Oh my goodness, there's no insects, there's no butterflies, there's no pollinators. What's going on?" And it stunned him. He said, "I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm not anything. Just a farmer who works really hard every day." And so you got one farmer, the sunflowers are not following the sun. Thanks to radioactive fallout. And when you see these nuclear power plants, you see this radioactive fallout I put in there. It's the connotations to make you appreciate that the fuel pools at these sites full of reactor cores are still splitting the same atoms they were to power 1 million businesses and homes. And they're ejected up tall, skinny stacks, not these big ones, but the tall, skinny stacks. All day, 24 hours a day. They're boiling off 120,000 liters out of each pool. There's around 1,000 pools worldwide doing it. There's a lot more than that, but, the national laboratories and everything else, universities, whatever. Once you take the fuel out and put it in the fuel pool, you now have a confirmed disease factory. These are disease factories. And to call them anything less is dishonest. And this is one of the most scariest pictures imaginable because of the connotations that every nuclear power plant... But then look at Fukushima. Fukushima was this pulse event. This is 19.5 days, 468 hours of radioactive fallout. Children with over 11 atoms a kilogram start to see heart problems. You won't see studies like that of carbon. Children with over 11 atoms of carbon per kilogram start to see heart problems. You won't see that for plants, will you? Or anything else, because carbon's good for you. Carbon's the best thing that can happen to you. So there's a massive, the entire media and universities have been co-opted, who knows, maybe from inception, have been co-opted to lull you into complacency, to keep you a perfect slave. And those who don't find this material are those perfect slaves. If you find this material, you're no longer a slave. Now you can think, now you can rationalize, now you can extrapolate on your own. And while it might seem like a hopeless cause, nothing can be further from the truth. It's the most important cause, because it attacks everything with replicating cells, which is life itself. And whether people are willing to acknowledge it or not, We all have an obligation. We're obligated under the Bill of Rights, the Magna Cartas, the Constitutions, just as a human, just as an entity, just as a soul, to fight this insidious, invisible monster that you can't perceive it, let alone taste it or touch it or feel it, or right? Because you can't perceive it, you can't hear it, but nevertheless, the evidence is so overwhelming of how this works. This is wind scale, Sellafield. There's still there's a nuclear meltdown there since 1957, hemorrhaging 8 million liters a day into the Atlantic Ocean. But the population is so disciplined into being slaves, they don't protest it, they don't rally to resolve it. And the nuclear industry just like, this is great, we're killing the planet, so this is a win. Killing the planet is their goal. That's the win. And they know what they're doing. They have millions and millions and millions of studies showing how the radiation is uptake by the food sources. So why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by food? But Fukushima is the big prize, isn't it? Inhaling just one hot particle can cause the cancer. So if one of them lands on your food, you go to the supermarket and buys it, brings it home, gives it to your kid, and then 6 years later your kid is incredible diseases or illness or cancer or whatever. How can you associate that, right? Because that's what they're counting on is you never find someone like me. And if they get rid of me, there's no one, I bet you, there's no one going to replace me. That's the most terrifying statement conceivable. That's my fear. My biggest fear. Is we're just this little tiny voice, right? We're censored. I don't mean people are not watching us, but we're censored. The numbers are incredibly censored. They have a little dial says Dana can't get more than 200 views in 24 hours. Doesn't matter if 100,000 people are clicking on buttons, it's not going to register. You know, my other account had 24,800 subscribers for 5 years. I never gained one, never lost one. Do you think that was an accident? Do you think that was just oops? Do you think that's possible, that you can have 20, and I'm doing 5, 6, 7. In those days, I was actually doing 7 shows a week. If I wasn't on the ocean 4 or 5 months a year doing research expeditions, I was doing 5, 6, 7 shows a week. In desperation. And I mean, there's no possibility they don't know that it's going to contaminate everything. So why would you build nuclear power plants surrounded by farms? 50 atoms a kilogram, which is imperceivable, because you put 200 million atoms in the head of a needle, you can't see it. 50 atoms a kilogram in humans lead to irreversible lesions in the vital organs. Irreversible lesions. And that's a recipe for compromised immune system on its own, not mentioning everything else. And what does a compromised immune system mean? It means you're more susceptible to pathogens and viruses that were normally harmless. Why is almost every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms? This is an agenda. They're out to destroy you, and they've basically succeeded. But don't let them win. Let's take them down. Let's hold them accountable. Let's prove that the world has goodness. Because the world has been lulled into this dummy complacency. Before Fukushima, 100 atoms a kilogram of cesium or is nuclear waste. After, it's considered safe to eat. And again, you see the word cesium. So how can you have cesium but not have uranium or plutonium or americium or strontium or 1,000 other fission products? Well, you can't. And so just these headlines constantly of the word cesium is the evidence that this industry doesn't have a right to exist. They don't have a right to exist. I forgot to turn the audio down again, did I? There, like 50 atoms lead to irreversible lesions in vital organs, but 50 atoms a kilogram is safe to eat. So 100 is considered safe, but in reality 50 will lead to irreversible lesions in your vital organs. So even if it was just cesium, it's going to lead, 100 atoms a kilogram is going to lead to irreversible lesions in your vital organs. Imagine what that's going to do to the bees and the insects, which a lot of the species are dependent upon. And like once you break that food chain, you broke the food chain. You are into a cascade effect, and we've done that. And so now we see them move into the next plot is a world war to keep you divided. And then let's throw in the crazies like Israel into the equation, and we're in real trouble. And I'm worried sick about it. Because they're going to hit each other's nuclear power plants, right? And the last thing we need is another event like that. And if you do it, it's clear evidence of what they're up to. They're trying to poison the entire ecosystem, finish it off. Whatever happened to survive 80 years in Fukushima won't be able to sustain another pulse event. Well, I believe humanity can rise up. And I'm not driven by blind ignorance. I'm not dedicated my entire life to this out of blind ignorance. I dedicated my life to this because that was what I was supposed to do. I was born to do this. Everything about my life was meant to do this. I was the perfect person for the job. I can't be shaken off. I can't be driven away. I can't be intimidated. There's zero possibility anybody in the nuclear industry is ever going to intimidate me. Even coming up and putting a gun in my mouth, you're not going to get me to give it up. It's never going to work. It doesn't exist in my DNA to give up, to quit. And every time I'm attacked, I get better. That's the solution. And I've been attacked brutally. And my solution is always to study harder, get better, talk louder, be more accurate, be more precise, be more persuasive, be more funny. Never, ever, ever in any circumstances give up. That is simply the facts. So they know all the food, no matter what kind of food you're growing, is going to suck up the radiation. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded, and a nuclear anthropogenic man-made radioactive fallout? The radioactive fallout, by the way, this radioactive fallout is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. It's 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. And Japan is growing food. The food was banned, rather, in 14 prefectures by 55 countries for a decade. So they got rid of the people that implemented those bans and replaced them with the pro-degenerate nuclear, and then removed the restrictions on all but 14 countries. But even they have been completely compromised. And they're shipping the food to other countries where it's not banned, relabeling it, repackaging it, and then shipping it to countries that had a ban. They've been caught over and over doing it. Tell me that's not evil on a level that we don't have anything else on the planet to compare it to. That kind of evil. It's way beyond organized crime. It's just orders of magnitudes above that kind of evil. It's way eviler. You can't be a pro-nuclear and not be a serial killer. It's as simple as that. we got 2 Danas. So you got all these studies showing that the food, and so this is episode 1 of this week of radioactive food. Cesium-137 immediately damages the heart muscles, not slow acting. So, now we're not finding any species out in the forest. We're not getting hit by any insects out on the bike. And tomorrow I'm hoping to be on the water, maybe. The weather looks like it might be stable. And, just got to keep doing the research as best we can. Because we got all these years punched in, right? Last year was a bit of a disaster. This year is a bit of a disaster, but I haven't lost that passion, right? Tokyo drinking water is unsafe for infants. Well, if it's unsafe for infants, it's unsafe for everybody. Again, this is day 12, and they're putting out headlines where the water is unsafe for infants. The government was distributing bottled water for the infants. If it's unsafe for infants, it's unsafe for everybody else. Just bear with me 1 second. I gotta fix the light. Japan got 30 million one-ton bags. Yellow rain report in Tokyo. And they said it was pollen, right? But it was snowing. You go look at the videos of the tsunami, you'll see snow. Yeah, one of my lights got unplugged. Alrighty. Over 60 million Japanese irradiated by Fukushima. 50,000 square miles. And if you're going to eat food that's coming out of that zone, and then you're shocked when you get heart problems, or liver problems, or lung problems, or respiratory, or pituitary, or thyroid, or adrenaline, or Alzheimer's, or dementia, or autism, or diabetes, or Down syndrome, then it's because you didn't find these videos. If everybody found these videos, that'd be the end of the nuclear industry, right? Everybody agree on that? If you agree on that, give me a thumbs up. I'm just kidding you. I don't give a shit about that stuff. It's all going to be censored anyway. Oh my. Hi, everybody. Let's do a shout out tonight. Something to do. Been a while since we had a shout out, isn't it? We need more shout outs. Now let's close the poll down first. Has degenerate shithead in Japan contaminated the entire food chain worldwide with radioactive fallout? Absolutely, positively, unequivocally. Yes, indeed, Dana. I'm going to leave the poll there and we'll close it down shortly. Let's do a shout out. I haven't had a shout out forever. We'll go to the top of the queue. We got Dana Nasana, that's your moderator. Hi, Dana. Albert. Hi, Albert. Colette. Hi, Colette. Blue Skies. James Megan. Vast Inker. Good night, everybody. Hopes for everybody. Let's get some out music going on here. Pray for Charlie. James Lucid sent me a song, Calm Down Charlie song that he put together. So awesome, man. That was pretty cool. I had to listen to it a couple times again the night before I went live. I haven't figured out how to download it. I haven't had a chance today. I'm pretty busy. I'm gonna have to download it and probably put pictures to it and post it maybe if James don't mind. He's done a great job on it. It was pretty awesome. Let me keep going here. Shout out. We're doing shout out. We start doing more shout outs. Speaking of James Lucid, there's James Lucid there. And David. John Curtis. Hi, everybody. Let Go 393. Yeah, once you the forest fires are releasing radiation. I know Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has a fire going on there. We've covered that place many times, and that's a nightmare. They have an incredible inventory of fuel rods stored in pools there. They're always hemorrhaging radiation. Right across the river, it's massive amount of farms. John Curtis, Beer Bones. Bella Lagrisky. Intentions 8, P-Turv 7, we're almost down through it. Yeah, we're down there. Timeless Truth. I'm going to come in and close up the poll here in a second. Yeah, we got through everybody. Let's close the poll up. Has degenerate shithead Japan, one of my better polls, contaminated the entire food chain worldwide with radioactive fallout? Oh yeah. So we're going to do another show tomorrow night on this. I have some pictures from the week, later the week for you too. So we got a die-off show that got to get done. I was tempted to do it tonight, but I just don't have what it takes lately to. And that folder's gotten so much bigger. It must be up close to 900 clicks. So it's a 3.5 hour show of die-offs, and everything is emaciated. And it's worldwide. We're talking about, right? It's unbelievable what we're seeing. Oh, we got no music. Let's do that again. Yeah, that happens. How loud is it? Is it crazy? Oh, that's okay. That's not bad. Hopefully that didn't drown me out again. I've done that lots. Talking away and the music's too loud for anybody to hear me. All right, so we're going to pick up here tomorrow night. Or who knows? I got so much there to get through. It's going to take me, if I can do this for a whole month, with the stuff we've gathered up over the years, it'll take me at least a month to get through everything we got gathered up. And so, we'll see everybody tomorrow night. I'm hoping the weather holds up. It's still summer. Like our summer is very late, and it could last all the way up until October. It won't be perfect temperatures, but it'll be summer, right? Alrighty, have a great night. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. If you make it this far, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to catch the rest of these episodes. Because this stuff is very valuable. Download these videos when you get a chance and put it in your archive. You can print out this stuff and make a book of it and leave it on your table for your friends and families. I guarantee you, you'll shake them. You'll shake them awake just by doing that. Just print it out, make a little book of it, and then bring it in, drop it off in doctors' offices and engineering firms and places like that, and print out pictures of the reactors and stuff like that. You'll change the world. And you don't know who you're going to spark and ignite. We only need a couple more people like me out there to beat the shit out of this industry. Am I right or am I right? Am I right or am I right? Have a great night. Have a great day tomorrow. Hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody on the next show. Take care, folks.